Call the meeting to order. My name is Chris. Look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
Repeat that bit about the microphones open.
Second. Motion has adopted. All in favor of the agenda, say aye. 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 All right, and just to reiterate, we have very sensitive microphones, so I ask the folks that are attending in person to please keep the side conversations to a minimal so that they do not end up interfering with the recording. I'd like to welcome our friends on Zoom, Mr. Chris, along with Councilors Kane and Councilors Grant for coming out tonight. My name is Chris Hazley. I live in College Street in Ward 3. And I'm on the steering committee here, and I guess we'll go to the right tonight.
Oh, hi. I'm Ben. I don't know.
I should backtrack a little. Just say your first and last name, street you live on, and we're all, I think, in Ward 3 for the most part.
Ben Voter, 194 College Street.
Amelia McClure, North Champlain Street, Ward 3.
Joan Ball, 131 Main Street.
Amy Prenowitz, 19A Johnson Street.
Evan Horn, 79 Pine Street.
Evan Chirota, 230 College Street.
Dennis McCarthy, Pine Street.
Pearl Street, excuse me.
Sharon McCarthy, Pearl Street.
Bob Kieran, downtown on the Church Street Marketplace.
Hi, I'm Nora Aarons. I use she, her pronouns, and I live on North Union Street.
And I'm Michelle Morvis, one of the other steering committee members, and I'm over on 191 College Street.
And I'd like to welcome Zach Nersinger from City Hall, who will be helping to facilitate our online meeting tonight, and Charlie Giannoni from CCTV, who is recording the meeting. Big shout out to the folks at Talmony TV for making this happen tonight. So the first item on the agenda is basically a pretty much open forum to just talk about what folks want to get from the NPA. As a reminder, the NPA was established in 1982 citywide, one in each ward, for the purposes of facilitating interaction and involving residents in city government. So it's a place to come out, learn about different events, talk about the things that are on your mind, and share news and events. So with that said, I'm just, if anyone has anything they want to speak about, raise their hands and we'll go around the room and we can talk about whatever. Very quiet tonight.
Yeah, one on the.
I'd like to recognize Councilor Kane. Are you able to, okay. Hey, Councilor Kane, welcome tonight.
Thank you. I'm hoping we can talk about this made at the last meetings. I understand it can be reconsidered with the motion to reconsider from anyone present.
My understanding is under Robert's Rules of Order is that in order to reconsider a prior meeting business, it has to be from the prevailing side, which would mean a person making said motion would have had to have been present at the prior meeting. So
Not a person who voted in the majority.
correct.
So it would have to have been literally the person who made the motion.
The person would have had to have been in the prevailing side in the vote that was taken previously. I would also like to point out that this is an open discussion, that this is not an action item that was not warned. So.
Well, I had my hand up for the when you suggested that we vote to, I guess, approve the agenda, and I was hoping to speak and make a motion to amend the agenda, but I was not recognized.
The agenda, Councilor Kane, you're on the council, you know how this works. If you have something you'd like to contribute in the open speak out forum, we'd certainly love to hear your perspective. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to contribute?
Well, for instance, I did get an email from, I think, somebody in the room there today. I won't mention the person's name in case they don't want to speak about this, but I think if they would like to.
Before you go, could you kindly come off camera so that we could see you? It's just a matter of courtesy.
I would like to. It seems to have been set up in a way that I don't have that option. I know this seems to be like a webinar rather than a meeting.
Zach, do you have anything to contribute on that as our technical resource?
I could promote him to a panelist.
Yeah, we could do that. We'll promote you to a panel.
Sorry, is that being worked on?
We can hear you with an echo.
Okay, yeah, you guys can see me now?
There you are, Joe.
Great. Yeah, so I have hearing a terrible echo. Is anybody else hearing that?
Yes. Second.
You still experiencing technical difficulties, Mr. Zersinger?
You could have brought this up at that meeting tomorrow, right, before we're done.
Can we keep the side conversation from meeting, please?
Oh, we lost him. Well, there you are. Counselor, could you try again?
You're gonna post this on front porch?
Okay, testing.
No echo.
Seems to be working. Okay.
Can't hear you.
You guys can hear me, yeah.
You have the floor now. I think we've moved beyond the technical difficulties. Hopefully, not linoleum.
Great. So, yeah, I watched the last meeting, and I have concerns about the way the votes were taken. You know, there were people who were asking for the votes not to be taken at that meeting, for there to be more discussion, including at the Wards 2-3 NPA, and to make the votes at this meeting. And that request was seemingly unilaterally denied by one member of the steering committee without consulting the other members of the steering committee. That's just one way in which the whole thing felt very undemocratic. Perhaps the most undemocratic part of it, though, was this vote to reduce the quorum. There was a quorum of 10 people, that a decision would need to be made by at least 10 voting members of Ward 3. You know, there are like 5,000 people in Ward 3, and there was a vote to reduce the quorum from 10 people to a majority of steering committee members, which is just unconscionable. I mean, the quorums should be higher. We should be trying to bring as many people to these meetings as we can. It's lovely to see that the old quorum would have been met at tonight's meeting, that there are at least 10 people there. I am concerned about what I view as a consolidation of power that, yeah, just seems dangerous and totally against the spirit of what we're doing here. I know that other people feel this way as well. I'm speaking in a personal capacity, but I think a lot of people were blindsided by what happened. So I think it would be good to start this meeting by talking about what happened, why, whether or not this group would like to proceed with the decisions that were made last time. And I will say that the council, in particular, one of the committees I'm on, the Community Development and Neighborhood Revitalization Committee, is reviewing the relationship between the city and the NPA, and the NPA guidelines, you know, are up for review by the council, and the behavior that I witnessed at the last meeting just raises so many red flags that are going to be part of the conversation that is had at the council and committee level, whether or not this particular steering committee, you know, wants that conversation to happen or not.
Thank you, Councilor Kane.
Hi, yeah, Amelia McClure, North Twin Plain Street. I think Joe was about to say that he received a complaint from a constituent, that I did submit a complaint to the steering committee, or to city councilors, and also the city attorney, about how the vote went at the last meeting. I heard Chris in the meeting say that it was adequately warned. I don't know the legal, like exactly what is legally required. You did say you warned on Front Porch Forum. I searched my email inbox and also my like email trash and found no warning. Nothing like from Front Porch Forum regarding any NPA activity since the prior like 2-3 community dinner email that I had gotten. So therefore, I think like the fact that the goal of this split is to make Wards 3's NPA more accessible to Ward residents, but there was absolutely no advertising. It's sort of like, I don't see what the goal is if the goal is accessibility, but the way that the accessibility was gotten was so inaccessible. So I just like see a fundamental issue here with how this NPA is operating, and I think we're like at an inflection point here. I'm not like opposed to the split or not, but since the goal is accessibility, like we need to be moving forward in a way that is publicized, accessible, and like community driven. And like what I'm seeing here is just a group of like 6 people or 8 people that are making decisions. And like I understand that like people have made the time and effort to become steering committee members, and yeah, that does give you a certain like you get to steer. But I feel like like I was sort of happy not being a steering committee member before because I was happy with how the 2 and 3 NPA was operating. And so now that we're at this inflection point, I think like we really need to dial it back, call for the people who want to be involved in a very public, accessible way, and like reevaluate. I think this has all gone way too fast.
I wanted to thank Joe for his thoughts. On the issue where you mentioned people, bringing up at that meeting that you watched, which doesn't seem to be the same meeting that I was at, but in terms of the way you put it, but only one person talked about waiting, about voting, and that was our Central District Councilor Grant. There weren't people that, most of the rest of what you said is regarding people that you've heard things about this and you've heard things about that. I'm in Ward 3 and I'm happy that this NPA is now its own Ward 3 NPA. And I think maybe, I don't want to speak for everyone in the room, but I think most people in the room feel the same way to a certain degree. But I appreciate your thoughts. Most of what you said towards the end doesn't seem to me to be about Ward 3 NPA. It seems to me about general conditions in Burlington that you support, which is fine, and I may not.
And just as a interject here, I did not go over the ground rules on this, and I was remiss. So, yeah, I was a little remiss in that I did not review the ground rules for the meeting at the beginning. So as part of the discussion, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to speak at least once before we give someone an opportunity to speak a second time. And if there are questions, it'll be one question. We don't want to get into a back and forth because we want to give everybody an opportunity to speak. So, Amy.
I don't entirely agree with the way it was done. I'm all for, I think there's very good reasons why Chris felt that the NPA should be split. I agreed with most of those reasons. I don't think we went through it in a way that worked. I think there were, the Ward 3 is huge and a huge number of those people don't make it to meetings. They may not even know about it. I think some people, we now have blocks down on Maple and King. I don't know that they know where we're meeting. So I think it needs a lot more warning. And we have to do a lot more advertising to get people in here. I think there's some important things. I think the things you were talking about, Chris, are important issues. But I think we should get more people in here. I think we're bigger than this.
Any other comments? Anybody else want to speak first before we get into second comments at all? Mr. Kiernan.
I just want to agree with Amy about more people being here. And I'm not sure what I expected for tonight, but I just want to go back to the meeting that we had to vote on a stormy night. We had a pretty good amount of people there, more than are here at this particular meeting, which is not a problem. I think we're on our way, particularly if we have the opportunity to move the meeting to a more centralized location, so it's even more convenient for you and other people. I think we'll have more people. It's just a little bit of a short time, and including the holiday, for the word to get out. So, but I'm basically agreeing with you. I'm looking at this as being a well appreciated NPA, and we'll have a lot of attendance.
We have copies of the agenda by the door too, and I can get those out for folks who didn't get them. Yeah, gentleman, Senator, did you want to say your name and what your family in relationship to the ward?
Oh, yeah, I'm Tyler Middleton. I'm the general manager, managing partner of Connectors. Done a lot of things downtown and, just, hear what we have to say and come to voice.
Anybody else have anything you want to say? You want to speak about it?
I just want to clarify that I think my feeling about the getting people involved is at least from my point of view, I think Chris has done a fair amount of trying to get people involved. But I don't think any of us have gotten down to King and Maple. And there are a lot of people down there who don't know to come here. So it's not that they haven't had time to bring themselves here, it's that they don't even know where we are, that we exist. So I think that's something that's important, just to know.
So we had a couple other people have come in. I'll give you the mic here to speak up. You just introduce yourself, where the street you live on.
Introduce myself?
Yes.
I'm Trudy Richmond, Ward 3, I live at McKenzie House. Yeah, well, Ward 3, McKenzie House.
We're just having the speak out part and what do you want from your MPA? I've heard some folks have expressed some concerns about the process related to the meeting in July. So if you have anything further you'd like to say, do you ladies have anything you'd like to add to the conversation?
I feel like I'm coming in the middle, I apologize for that. I was planning on one, so carry on.
Ms. McClure.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think like we definitely do need some like thoughtful reflection about how to be more accessible, but there's so many different ways to do that. Like we could offer carpooling services, we could offer childcare, we could offer some sort of like, I think the dinner at the 2-3 NPA was like a huge draw, especially for people who might like getting a free meal is a huge win for them. And like it's a big, carrot in terms of civic participation is giving people something to look forward to and something to enjoy and like economic benefit. So I think what I personally would like to see would be some sort of outreach, whether it's walking around, an online survey, a mailed survey about what you're looking for. I guess you guys did do this in terms of you sent out the survey about like what your areas of concerns were, right?
Yes,
But
we have a
I
survey.
don't think it like really specifically addressed like what are the blocks from participation in terms of, is it transportation, is it time, is it childcare? So I think doing some additional survey that is specifically addressed towards accessibility and also addresses like outreach around the splitting process, I think would be a good next step, maybe.
Just to clarify, we do have a survey that was put out as part of the announcement for this particular meeting, and there will be another reminder going out. We'll be keeping the survey open through the end of the month. There is in fact a question on there about barriers to prevent people for exactly the reasons that you've identified. So hopefully we can get some good data from that.
Yeah, are those results public or?
The survey is not yet closed.
Okay.
It will be when the survey is done. Any further questions about the process, or we want to transition and actually talk about some of the issues here, what people would like from their MPA, like what you would want to talk about, the things.
Councilor Milo has there.
Councilor Grant, welcome.
Hi, thank you. And I'm not sure I can make myself visible. I think I was having the same problem that Joe was earlier, just a FYI. I just wanted to mention that one of the things I would like to see is that as part of the funds that the NPA gets, is that we create flyers. And just, Joe and I are definitely willing to do it where we really hit some of these neighborhoods. And then also, do we have the money to do a mailing to the locked buildings? It's really difficult to get into those locked buildings and hand out flyers. Because to the point that was mentioned earlier, do people even know to be here? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grant. I certainly share your perspective with regards to the outreach efforts in terms of some of the underserved areas of the ward. And I think one of the things that's unique with coming after the redistricting with Ward 3 is that unlike Ward 2, for example, which is entirely composed of the old North End, Ward 4 has to be accountable to, or Ward 3, excuse me. I can't count that, I think, maybe. Has to be, we have 4 different and very distinct, very unique neighborhoods here. We have a portion of the old North End from North Street down to Pearl Street. We have all of downtown. We have the King Maple neighborhood, which includes the Bobbin Mill, which, as I understand it, is Vermont's largest community of color with a number of new American families there. So there's certainly some language and cultural barriers in play that we're going to need to overcome to involve those folks. And I'm certainly looking forward to having that conversation and getting out to meet them on their turf. And then last but not least, we have folks on the waterfront. I think there's like 100 or 150 people that live on the waterfront. And so trying to be an organization that represents all those views in different neighborhoods and individuals is a challenge. And I think everyone's absolutely on the spot about the need to do some targeted outreach as opposed to some general outreach as well. So anybody else have a question on this? So we're at 6:23. We've got another 17 minutes kind of budgeted for this. If there's anything folks want to talk about, sticky notes.
So, I'll bring some sticky notes and pens around. If at any time during the meeting you think of something that you would like, as this would be great to see our ward to do as an activity or to bring to the table as a conversation. Just put it up on the poster board for us. That way it's not gonna disrupt our meeting, but at the same time, you don't lose the thought kind of thing, okay?
So what does this organization have to do with the safety in the city? I mean, what can we do about that?
So get out the resolution and read it. So as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of the NPA is to facilitate engagement between ordinary residents who live in the city and with our elected representatives in city governments. So we have 2 of our city councilors here, Councilor Grant and Councilor Kane. So I think if you have thoughts and perspectives on public safety and or any other issue you'd like to share, certainly this would be an appropriate time.
Well, we live on Pearl Street and we're right down by a battery park. And over the last, week or 2, we're losing all of our Amazon deliveries off the front porch. And I guess that's citywide. Late at night, it's becoming dangerous because of the people in the park and walking up and down Pearl Street. We've had people sleeping on the back porches on the houses behind us, things of that sort. So, I mean, it's a big problem and we're just here to try to get an idea of anybody has any idea how to solve it.
Ringing our doorbell and asking for help.
Yeah,
So my
screaming at our
tenant would give a
tenants.
blanket
Yeah.
and then they went and slept in a hallway. It's, behind us. So it's getting very frightening,
Yeah.
actually.
Amy and Bob.
I just wanted to mention that there is a group, at least starting at City Hall, which you know more than I do, I think, but certainly our 2 counselors could talk about, I believe, which is there's a safety forum that's coming from that group that is happening from 5:30 to 7 at the Contox Auditorium tomorrow.
That's changed.
That's changed.
And when does it change?
It's been postponed to September 19th.
Wow.
Excellent, thank you.
I don't want to, I'm not going for any ratings, but 12 feet in front of my downstairs front door, a person was murdered last week.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm getting at, I think that's the shooting in front of Red Square. I think a lot of people have a lot to say about that, and I appreciate your bringing it up. The meeting that was postponed for tomorrow night might have been a good forum for us all to speak at, it would be. So, there's no indication of what that meeting was gonna flush out to be, because the agenda never got posted. And today, at least on the civic clerk site, today in the latest front porch forum posting, where the mayor Emma said she has to postpone it for family sickness. She rescheduled to January 19th, and if those of you can go to front porch forum, she posted a brief agenda on there. I happened to bump into her yesterday on Church Street, as she was coming back from a meeting, and we spoke for just barely 5 minutes. I didn't want to take much of the time, but she indicated that their meeting was going to be more than just what happened in 2023. There were similar two-part meetings you may have gone to, where a lot of things were discussed, and here we are almost a year later, or more than a year later. I'm not sure I can count the month. That not much has happened, but it seemed to me that what was planned, or what is planned, or probably still in the stages of planning, is going to have some action items. And so I have tons of thoughts about.
Yeah, I don't have
what I
any
would like to have,
solutions, you know.
But I'm not ready to, that's okay.
Mm.
I'm not ready to offer up any of my ideas, but I want to contribute. I'm looking forward to that next meeting. And also, by the way, because I thought Amy was going to mention it, at the city council meeting this coming Monday night, there's going to be a big discussion about public safety, because 7 of the city councilors are bringing a resolution about this issue. And I happen to get an email, which I'll forward it to you tonight. That they outline what they're going to do a lot more succinctly as to what we have so far from the city's plans. But it's always a challenge to get from making a statement about we need this and we need that to actually doing something about it. So at least for the near term, I'm holding out some hope that between the majority of the members of the city council, what they're attempting to do, and what city government is attempting to do later this month, might give us a clue that they're actually ready to take some action.
Anybody else?
I'm advocating very strongly for a segment of the recovery community that seems to not get much attention or funding from the city. The homeless folks that are on the street that are struggling with their recovery, that are trying to get sober and trying to stay sober, and are also homeless. There's very little, if any, space for them. And I'm advocating very strongly for the pod community, the 30-bed pod community that is due to, the pilot project is due to end in June of 2025. And when that pilot is over, I'm really advocating for another pilot that would turn that into a sober living community, to support those folks on the street that are struggling with this. Burlington must become known as a place to go for recovery, not a place to go for drug use and drug selling with impunity. We've got to change. This is one step. They wanted to do this. This was a real innovative pilot project. We're due for another. And I'm really advocating for that to happen. And we've got a year to make it happen. Counselors.
Any further thoughts? We do have 10 minutes left. Happy to take some time here. If not, I'll move us along to the next agenda item.
My question is why we think that downtown core is the place to bring all these into. because I'm all for everything you're saying. I was an addiction counselor. I'm all for all that. But I think that we've seen that having all of this in the town center core is bringing a lot of crime and more homelessness and more problems. It's not helping.
If you build it, they will come.
We need boots on the ground, and it needs to be not in the center core. You know, but we need all of that, you know, but not right in the, look what's happened to downtown. It has ruined our economy.
It's my understanding that the pod, not the pilot project, but the pod community itself is going to be approved for another X number of years, whatever. So my thing is, if it's already there and they're not moving it, I want to change it.
We need to change it because that's where all the crime's coming from. I'm
Let's,
sorry.
all right, folks, we gotta try to maintain some order here. Sorry for the back and forth. Anybody else wanting to weigh in on this, or we'll move along to the next topic? Ms. McClure.
Yeah, there, I think, is a big chunk of people in Ward 3 that don't live in Ward 3, but do work in Ward 3. And I think they're sort of an important part of the Ward 3 community. And so thinking about ways we can support them, whether it's through like how they can feel safe or how they can be adequately compensated. Like, I think there's been some like efforts to unionize by different workplaces in the downtown core that have faced various like obstacles. So I think being sort of a way engaging in some like labor rights activities in our ward is also an important function of the NPA.
Thank you. And just to clarify, the survey that we had, it's based upon a prior survey from when it was the wards 2 and 3 NPA, and it's for people who live, work, or own business in the ward. And certainly we have heard from some folks who work in Ward 3 that have shared their perspectives. Amy?
Do we know which front porch forums are part of Ward 3?
As I understand it, it's the King Maple Forum, the Downtown Forum, Old North End West, Old North End Central, and Old North End East.
Oh my God.
So there's 5 of them. And as a side note, talking with some of our colleagues at the NPAs and other wards, we kind of had a thought of, wouldn't it be nice if the front porch forum boundaries lined up a little bit better with the ward boundaries, but that's probably a conversation for a different day, a different forum. So not seeing any other final. Charlie, Amy, Dennis, okay.
Okay, so I just want to say one thing. So I'm Charlie. I actually live in Ward 2 at the moment, but I was in Ward 3 for like 20 something years. So I know a lot about the history of the NPAs, and just the fact that traditionally in Burlington, in the central part of the city, very few people get involved in boards and commissions. Very, very few. So you look at the Development Review Board or the Parks Commission or the Police Commission, typically there are very few people that get on boards and commissions. However, so what am I seeing here at the Ward 3, at the beginning of the new Ward 3 NPA? To see almost 20 people in a room at one of the founding meetings of that is very impressive, because usually when NPAs either start over after being vacant for several years or something, or when a new one is created like Ward 8, it's a real challenge to get 3 people in the room. So the fact that I've seen like 2 or 3 meetings in a row where Ward 3 has had this much participation is very encouraging as far as I'm concerned. And I've been doing this for 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Amy, Dennis, and wrap it up. Amy?
I don't remember exactly. One thing I would like to say is I would like to put doing more of this on next month's agenda.
No cards, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, what does SD Ireland think of what's going on downtown here? Has anybody talked to that company and had any feedback from them? I mean, they're putting in a multi-million-dollar building down there, you know, where they're considering putting in a drug rehab place of, you know, a block away, things like that. And
Harm
if we got
reduction.
any, harm reduction, yeah. Anybody talk to any of the big construction companies yet?
I'll just jump in on that. I can't say that we've heard directly from the SD Ireland, but we have been approached previously from the developers of City Place down on Bank and between Bank and Cherry. And they're absolutely, certainly open to come present to us and take some questions about what's going on there. You know, if we want to invite them to a future topic, and it sounds like there's a little bit of interest in that. Bob and then Amy. See, now we're having a real discussion. It's getting into.
I thought. What probably was the say, I understand about the corporate side, not that. I just have. A lot of interaction with SDI employees now because my street is basically blocked by 2 construction projects downtown. Main and Church Street is, the intersection is closed off. And College and Church, they're repaving. But they're, just because it's a big priority for both of you. The feeling of the guys on the ground and the women on the ground there too, is that the traffic of homeless people going past them is pretty standardly high. Not like there's 30 people walking at a time, but there's a constant flow. And they just put the blinders on. I mean, that one fence is totally up, but actually they can't really see much of it, but they have concerns. I don't think any of them have mentioned concerns about safety, their personal safety, but they have concerns about the feeling to them and the look to them. And of course, they're unlike you, who's most of your involvement with the, I live right around the corner from that, that is more in the evening. They're more in the daytime. They start at 7 o'clock in the morning. So, and I'm down there early some days, so it's an interesting thing. So that's a little bit aside from what you were speaking of, but yeah, bringing in more upper management to the discussion as Bush would do, or the steering committee would do by bringing them in for a presentation. I think they'd be more than happy to present, because they made the number of these presentations at our former NPA, and they've been more directed in a generalized version as opposed to how it's going to affect the actual award that it's in and the people that live around it, as you do, and the people living downtown. So that's a good point.
So before I recognize Amy, I just want to say if there's anyone who hasn't spoken yet that would like to speak and weigh in on this, I want to make sure that we have space for y'all to speak up. Going. Okay. Amy.
I would like to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I also have down that here, actually, on the 18th, there is, I believe, a forum on Main Street. I mean, about Main Street and the construction going on there and everything else to do with it. On the 18th from 5 to 7 at the library.
So as luck would have it, our presenter for that event actually happens to be here tonight. So if you want to say a brief about that, Zach Nursinger from the city, he will be running the meeting on the 18th here at the library. So move over and I'll give you.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I didn't want to scream from command center over there. That meeting on the 18th is actually about the proposed potential auditorium memorial block redevelopment that's going on right now. The city and the project partners are in what's called a pre-development agreement stage right now, where we're doing due diligence on the feasibility of redevelopment of that. So the goal of that meeting is for the public to come out and we're going to use what's called an open house model, where it's going to be kind of a self-guided tour to different stations we're preparing, where people get to have questions and answers with city staff, other professionals, consultants, about a lot of the things that have taken place over the years, focused on the auditorium itself and the block as a whole. So that's going to take place, as you said, on the 18th. I just didn't want to have people mixed up with Great Street's Main Street project. When you reference Main Street there, it's going to be more focused on the auditorium and the block itself, and obviously its surroundings, which does involve Main Street. So September 18th, if there are questions from anybody from now till then, please contact me at CEDO and I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Did you say your name?
If people would like to know, my name is Zach Nursinger. I work for the Community Economic Development Office. I'm a senior project specialist there. And yeah, that's about it. It's a lot of words. Thank you.
What's your email?
It's on the website.
All All right.
And I can give you a card.
Uh, Sometimes you're in the right place at the right time. Yeah, so on that, we're at time. I'm just gonna simply say, I agree with a lot of what was said here tonight, and it's clear to me that there are a number of people in our community who are struggling both with houselessness and with substance use disorder, and we really need to do a better job dealing with that. We really need our state legislators to step up and have a serious conversation about creating a new state hospital. It seems clear to me and the number of folks that I've talked to that our biggest challenge is the fact that we do not have enough inpatient beds for folks who are wanting to get better. And we need to step up and do that. We should not be relying on the private sector to build out our capacity. So on that note, I will transition us on to our next agenda item, which is steering committee elections. For those of you who are not intimately familiar with the bylaws, we have a minimum of 3 people on the steering committee, up to a maximum of 6. We currently have 5 persons on the steering committee, so we have a vacancy. And today I've heard from 4 individuals that have expressed interest in the steering committee, and I'll try to do this in alphabetical order. So it'd be Nora Ahrens, who lives on North Union Street, Evan Horn, who lives on Pine Street, Bob Kiernan from Church Street, and Trudy Richards, who is on Elmwood Avenue. So just to have everybody, give everybody an opportunity to speak about your background, your interests, what you're motivated in, what you'd like to accomplish on the steering committee. And then I guess we're gonna have to use these little sticky notes to do some kind of closed balloting since we have a contested race. So didn't anticipate that one. It's a good problem to have though, you know. Interest has been a challenge in the past, so glad to see that. So Nora, if you have, give the floor to you.
Yes, thank you. Am I staying here? I guess?
You can speak from where you are if you want.
Okay, yeah, I did type up a little. Oh, thank you. I admittedly did not print it though. So, hi everyone. My name is Nora Ahrens. I use she, her pronouns, and I would first just like to thank everyone for allowing me to attend the meeting tonight and to speak. I graduated from UVM in 2018 and have lived in Burlington ever since, including wards 1, 8, 2, and now obviously Ward 3 since June of this year. I began regularly attending the wards 2 and 3 NPA monthly meeting around a year ago because I had seen the lawn signs around the Old North End advertising it and became curious. I quickly learned the awesome sense of community that these meetings support and what a wonderful opportunity the NPA provides to be actively involved in the issues which directly affect one's day-to-day life. I feel an immense amount of pride living in the Old North End and truly believe it is a special place filled with so many unique people and voices. I work for a local housing nonprofit, which affords me the great opportunity to meet many different community members and organization partners daily. I am dedicated and passionate about building neighborhood camaraderie and wholeheartedly believe that we live in a systems world, which includes one's local community. It absolutely takes a village, and I am excited at the prospect of joining the Ward 3 NPA Steering Committee. Every voice, regardless of class, race, gender, ethnicity, and so on, is valuable and offers a wonderful perspective on how we can make both Burlington a sustainable and thriving city for all, as well as the Ward 3 neighborhood. I believe my personal and professional experience living and working in the Old North End will offer a wealth of important knowledge in this role, and my excellent organizational skills will prove to be an asset as well. I am eager to see all that I know Ward 3 can accomplish going forward. Thank you for your time and for listening to me. I am happy to answer any questions which may have come up and look forward to the opportunity to do some meaningful work with the Ward 3 NPA Steering Committee. Okay. Yes.
Evan Horn.
Sure. Hi, my name is Evan Horn. I live at 79 Pine Street. I expressed my interest the past few days over joining the steering committee in Ward 3. I am new to Ward 3. I've been living in the South End for the past couple of years. And I simply expressed interest and learning more about the role. And after, thinking more about it and what that entails, I've decided not to be considered for this time around. However, I'd love to be considered potentially in future vacancies on the steering committee. A little bit about me, I come from this as a recent grad student at UVM. My professional and personal experiences are from an ecological standpoint. I'm an ecologist, trained as an ecologist, and have a strong background in environmental sustainability. So that's where I'm coming at this, but I think at this time, there are more pressing issues than climate and environmental sustainability that we're really facing downtown, that I think other people's experiences can probably better serve the steering community, better serve the steering committee. That said, I do want to be an active member of this group and look forward to being a part of future conversations.
Mr. Kiernan. I'm gonna keep this pretty short. I appreciate what everybody said, and I've been living downtown starting now my 21st year. I came up here for my job in 2004, and just a few years ago I retired. But I've been living in the same place right across the street from City Hall for the now starting 21 years. And I've always been a fairly regular participant in city matters, because I used to attend a lot of city council meetings. Easy for me, it's just right across the street. Now I'm watching them a little bit more remotely, but I was gratified to be at the meeting at the end of July where we voted to separate from the Ward 2-3 NPA. And that just challenged me to get back to being a bit more involved, because it felt more like now it was involved with my neighbors in Ward 3. So my goals are more solidly in line with continuing to improve the Ward 3 NPA and help it grow. And I was thinking about wanting to make the meetings more comprehensive, but the folks here today have made that obviously with the first, and as Charlie said, the first Ward 3 NPA meeting, it is more comprehensive. But I just am a strong supporter of the Ward 3 NPA.
I think,
My name's Trudy Richmond, like the capital of Virginia. I've got a master's degree in counseling psychology and spent my career working in emergency psychiatry, working in inner city hospital emergency rooms, and also running a crisis stabilization unit. What I see going on is crazy. We need common sense approach to what's going on. We need to quit clutching our pearls and wring our hands and actually get down to doing something that's going to work. That's my focus. That's what I'm up for. I live in Mackenzie House right next door to Pod City. And I've been fighting not the Pod City and not the concept, but what it's up for, the low barrier part of that. And now I understand we're ready to get another low barrier shelter coming to your neighborhood soon. And I really think we need to reconsider that. And that's what I'm up for. So there you go.
Comments? So we have the sticky notes here. I'm gonna ask if everyone does anyone not have a sticky note? All right, we'll do voting. Amelia?
Nora,
What? Zach, Amelia's graciously allowed us to use her hat for the voting. Thank you.
very efficient.
Yeah.
Contributing your ballot box.
Great, I've been in boxes.
Can I intrude and say a little something again? I'm not getting in trouble here. Okay, so if it was me and I was in Ward 3 right now, I would be looking to modify the bylaws so that more people could be on the steering committee. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I'm going to say is that even if you're not on the steering committee, you can still attend all the steering committee meetings. So probably 2 weeks before this meeting, there was a steering committee meeting, I'm assuming. Okay, for steering committee, but everybody can also attend that meeting. So you can still have an equal say in everything, but when it comes to time for the steering committee to vote, you just don't get a vote if you're not a member of the steering committee. So those are the two things. The first thing is I try to never turn away any motivated person that wants to do anything. So if it was me, I'd be looking to expand the bylaws so you can get more people on your steering committee, because it sounds like there's a lot of really committed people around here. You don't get that a lot, but it sounds like, and the second thing is you can still do everything that a steering committee member can do. It's just that you're probably not going to facilitate a meeting or host a meeting at your house or something. So I just wanted to throw that out there before your vote. So thank you.
Well, can I make a motion to expand the steering committee?
We have to change the bylaws for that. There's a process for doing that, but I think it's certainly worth a discussion to have. And
But today or?
it'd have to be on another meeting.
May I make a comment in response to this gentleman?
Sure.
Just to keep in mind, sometimes too many cooks spoil the pot. You get too many chiefs and none of Indians, and
That's fair.
that's fair, so just FYI.
So,
That's a good point.
yeah, so this is actually, speaking as individual personally, this is actually my second time on the steering committee. I previously lived in Ward 3 and or Ward 2 and was involved there back probably 15 years ago. And this is a really good problem to have. Like, I'm really grateful that we have so much interest here from all, the different parts of the ward, and certainly do a little bit better job. I don't see anyone here from the waterfront, but King Maple perhaps, but to the point, there's work to be done, and it sounds like we have many hands who want to step up and do that work. So without any further ado, I'm going to check. Zach, do we have everyone give their sticky note ballots to Zach?
I think Amy voted.
Wear your hat. Thank you for allowing us to use your hat.
Any chance?
No.
That's just ideas there.
Thank you.
So, yeah, let Zach just announce the. Yeah, good point. Counselor Kane, I don't know how we should do this here, since can he, since we want to maintain the, is it possible if Counselor Kane elects to cast a vote, can he contact you privately through the chat to do that?
If they wish to vote, I believe they could probably send me what looks like a question, not a chat, since this is set up differently than a normal Zoom meeting.
Does that work for you, Counselor Kane?
It's fine. I'm also happy to not vote. Just as a counselor, I don't know how you feel about that, Milo, if we should be voting.
Okay. You live in the ward, so you have that. Counselor Grant, I believe, is in Ward 2, as much as we'd love.
Right, I can't vote because I live, I'm Central District Counselor, but I live in Ward 2.
Sorry.
You're an honorary resident of Ward 3.
Yeah, I think I'll,
Which I was for 25 years.
We all love redistricting.
Yeah, I won't vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you for clarifying that, Counselor Kane. All right, do we have results yet? Or are you still tabulating there, Zach? He's just starting the tabulation there. So if it's okay with everyone, we'll let Zach continue to tabulate. We'll roll into the city council and school board updates, which at this point, based on our attendance, will strictly be city councilors because school board not here. I did hear from Central District School Commissioner Jeannie Waltz prior to the meeting that due to her commitment as an actual teacher, she can be in the school year. They would not be able to attend tonight, so it's, I think, understandable. Anyone has experience with schools, this is a very busy time. Do you have a question, Amy, before we move into the?
I may have missed it, but I didn't hear any introductions from these two.
Yeah, let's have you
My name is Michael Albanos. I'm with JRNA Design Studio. My colleague Mike Scheckner, and we're be presenting a project for consideration in Poplar Street, Burlington.
And that is the very next agenda items following the updates from our city councilors. So Councilor Kane, do you want to go first as the Ward 3 councilor?
Sure.
Putting it in a spot. All right.
Yeah. So I heard some discussion earlier about safety issues related to homelessness and drug use and trespassing and that sort of thing. I am well aware of these things. I've received a number of communications from people who live in our ward about this. I've actually personally witnessed a lot of this stuff in the building where I live, and I am working very actively on it. I think one advantage of being a counselor is that people respond to your emails more quickly. I'm emailing quite a bit with the mayor's office. I am talking to department staff. I've sat down with the directors of organizations that are administering social services just to try to better understand the issue. So I would say at this point, I am, still mostly in study mode of, understanding the issue, how many, homeless people are in Burlington, Vermont, and what proportion of those are dealing with substance use issues, and how does housing first and low barrier shelter type approaches, how does that apply to populations that are suffering by and large from issues of addiction. I think at this point I have a pretty good lay of the land of what everyone is doing, and so if you guys have particular questions, you can reach out to me. I will also be working with other counselors in the mayor's office to move the conversation forward this coming week. I think I think it was Bob, somebody referenced that there's going to be some conversation about a few resolutions relating to community safety at the meeting this coming Monday. One thing that I think will be helpful towards these issues that we're seeing with trespassing, with property crimes, with that sort of thing, is we have a new liaison kind of between departments to work on this. Ingrid Jonas, retired state trooper, whose first day was yesterday, and so I think that one of the important reasons this role was created is to try to break down silos, make sure everyone is communicating with each other, that that there are no lapses in communication between the police department, social service providers, counselors, the public works staff that have to actually physically go in and administer our sheltering on public lands policy, and clear encampments and clear out debris, and that sort of thing. And so I can tell you guys that there have been a tremendous amount of conversations happening behind the scenes to get counselors up to speed, to make sure that everyone is well informed on the issue, to start breaking down silos, to make sure that issues like problems with trespass are better resolved with the resources we have, and we certainly have limited resources, the police department staffing, recruitment, issues, and
what are silos?
Sorry?
You had a question, what are silos? And then once you answer that, I'd like to just.
I
turn it
can
over.
actually talk about that, because I was going to talk about something called City Link that the department is, the fire department is leading to address the issues of silos. So I can address that in what I had down that.
I think we're experiencing some technical difficulties here with the Zoom feed potentially. We'll give Councilor Grant an opportunity to potentially log on, log off. Hopefully that'll help a little. We have about 5 minutes left for the councilors. Do you want to take some questions there, Councilor Kane? And then if Councilor Grant is able to rejoin, we'll make some time for Councilor Grant.
Yeah, I think
want to talk about.
Oh, I think I
You're
just
kind of
heard her
slow for a
voice.
second. I thought we lost you for a minute. Counselor Grant, you back? Counselor,
Can you hear me?
All right, wait, Counselor Grant has returned.
Yeah, we couldn't hear
Okay.
anything you said really for, I don't know how long.
All right, I am in the backwoods of Maine. I was going to say that I could cover silos because it was on one of my items, a program made introduced by the fire department to help deal with that. Or I could start now. I have a lot of stuff.
You have a lot of stuff and you have about 3 minutes, so.
I need more than 3 minutes, and I hope you all will kindly bear with me, especially considering what the topics around public safety have been tonight. And that is, I'm not even covering anything else other than that. First, I want to continue to urge people to make sure that you receive the mayor's emails. And so that you can get her communications on public safety. It is still very disturbing to me that people say they don't know what the mayor's office is doing. The mayor is communicating what they are working on, the meetings about quote unquote hotspots, which by the way, are pretty much all in the central district. And I am going to be continuing to urge the mayor's office to do more emails, even if they feel that they're being repetitive with certain information, because we still have too many people in our city who think nothing is being done. And that's very disturbing to me because this mayor is going out on all cylinders. As Joe said, Ingrid Jonas just started yesterday. She is the senior advisor on community safety. She's got fantastic experience. I definitely recommend reading up on her background, over 20 years with Vermont State Police, and just all around experience that we really desperately need. And that is the mayor living up to one of the things she talked about during the campaign, to have an individual that was going to be in this temporary position to help get us through the worst of this. So by going to the city's website, once again, the calendar is available. The calendar shows all the meetings. When you click on the meetings, you get access to links to the meetings, as well as the minutes to the meetings and the agendas of the meetings. We still have many, many people, including some of my fellow counselors, who are not watching meetings. They don't watch the Public Safety Committee meeting. They don't watch other meetings that are discussing things that we need to happen in the city. But because very few things are quick fixes. I think the mayor's office has done a decent job by identifying some of the quick fixes, but then there's kind of mid-range and then long-term. Her committee of community safety advisors talked about this stuff in length and detail. It was a fantastic gathering of people from all areas of the city who work with our children, who work with people who are unhoused, who work with people struggling with substance use disorder, downtown businesses, multiple representation from downtown businesses, representation from the fire department, representation from the police department. This was a very comprehensive, these meetings were very comprehensive, very large group of people, many, many, many things discussed. Regretfully, not everything is something that you can fix overnight, which is what is really plaguing us. So you can sign up for the mayor's emails. I encourage everyone to do that. No one should be saying that they don't know what the mayor is working on. That is very distressing to me. On July 18th at the Public Safety Committee meeting, we had a presentation from Corporal Caroline Irwin and Recruitment Coordinator Anhad Bahwa. It was very interesting. It was also very distressing. Year to date, as of that meeting, they had only gotten roughly around, I think it was 26 applications. 26 applications so far for the year at the time of that meeting. We cannot rebuild a department on only 26 applications. This is not saying that 26 people were qualified. This was the total. So then when you go through and you're looking at the reasons why people aren't continuing through with the process, we have even less number of people to work with. I urge everyone to watch that meeting because it will inform you as to what our recruitment team is dealing with and the struggle to hire officers. I am aware, even though I've been on vacation, I am aware of the resolution that says to remove the cap. That doesn't mean anything. Don't be fooled by these things. A cap doesn't mean anything when you can't hire people. So a cap, or say, oh, we're going to remove the cap. Oh, that's going to make everybody feel good. But it's not going to solve our problem. Our problem is to have open, frank, honest, direct conversations as to what needs to be done to improve the recruitment process to help this team get people hired. That is what we must do. The cap doesn't mean anything if you don't have anybody applying. So I do find that to be disingenuous because it has been brought up a number of times. It was brought up last year. I asked repeatedly from support from counselors of all political backgrounds to help with a plan to help address the reputation of the police department so that when people, because when you think about people who they're recruiting now, don't think of yourselves. Sometimes when people say, oh, Milo, you talk too much about social media. Well, I'm 60 years old. I personally am not really on social media a lot. And there are a lot of people in our community, because our community is getting older, aren't on social media a lot. But the people that we are trying to recruit and bring into careers as police officers, this is how they get their information about jobs. They're on social media. And if you're trying to get a lateral transfer, that is someone who's an officer in a different community, city, or state, and you want them to come here because they won't have to go to the academy, they can get them on the road faster. When you think about someone coming from outside of their area, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to research the department online. And what they're going to see are multiple lawsuits, multiple payouts, issues that cause department embarrassment, such as the issue with the YES program and things like that. So we have to be honest about needing to handle some of this and be putting things in place to help drive applications so that our recruitment team can work with more individuals in order to get them through the process. Right now, they're even having to turn a blind eye to some things. If someone makes an appointment, for example, to have a physical, and then they don't show up, well, that's someone you may not want to be a police officer because they didn't show up for an appointment that they
Councilor
made.
Grant, we are 5 minutes over time here.
Okay, I do want to continue because
well,
we're talking about this, and I think this is very important
Councilor
detail.
Grant, I have immense respect for the work that you do, but we do have
All right, I'll try to be quick through the other things, but I think they're all.
Might I suggest that we do have 10 minutes at the end for public forum, and you will have an additional 2 minutes there. We do have some questions. For folks who've seen me facilitate before, you do know that I like to have questions, but being a facilitator is kind of a.
All right, well, I am trying to answer the questions that people had before. And I think that's really important. People asking things that they are saying they don't know. And I'm here, I can give you this information.
Milo and I work every day for hours on all this stuff. We have tons of email chains that none of you guys ever see, and we would love to explain some of it to you guys. I mean, I have a lot to say, and I think
it sounds like it, and it sounds like we may have underestimated the amount of time required, and certainly for the next meeting agenda. But we do have a developer here that needs to speak. We do have Pete Phillip from DPW, and we have to be out of here because the library closes. So we're gonna unfortunately have to, I'll give you a brief 30 seconds there, Counselor Kane, because it is the counselor updates. I don't know that we're gonna have time for Q&A at this point, but I'll have to ask folks to email the counselors, and to the counselors. I just want to call out the work that they do. To Counselor Kane's point, being on the council is very much like a second job that doesn't really pay all that well, to be frank. And they do a lot of work, you know, whether it's going to meetings and subcommittee meetings, constituent outreach, responding to email, responding to phone calls, responding to text messages, and just getting out in the community. So I do want to recognize that, and I do apologize that we clearly did not budget enough time on the agenda for this. So I'm thinking that if there's no one here that wants to speak at public forum, let's try to circle back to give you all some additional time if that's okay for the two of you. Counselor Kane, did you have any kind of parting comments briefly that you could get into a short amount of time?
Well, I won't move on to any new topics, but just to answer the question that was raised about breaking down silos, just to give an example. You know, I think the city and COTS had different senses for what would be good in terms of how to use the 58 Pearl Street building that, you know, the state owns and is willing to use towards homeless services, or has mandated that be used that way. So, you know, I think, you know, COTS has a lot to say about how effective their model has been at like the way station, where they have 36 beds. They believe that CHT and CVOEO and the city running the pods could learn a lot from their model. These conversations are not necessarily happening. The conversations between COTS and the mayor's office, you know, have picked up quite a bit and been very fruitful in the last couple of weeks. But I think there was like a huge gap in understanding of like what we need, because people are, you know, people have a different sense for how to solve, you know, problems related to homelessness. There's one set of solutions, right, for a homeless population that you know is not mentally ill and is not addicted to anything. There are different sets of solutions, right, for folks who you know, are dealing with those sorts of issues, low barrier shelters versus shelters with additional barriers. You know, have big differences in different populations in terms of their, you know, ability to move people through towards independent and healthy living in community and society. And so, you know, just that particular example is the person who runs COTS, I think has felt a little bit frustrated with just yeah, sense that like their model isn't well enough understood and appreciated by people that are making important decisions. And so that is an example of the silo that has been
need to call it here. Sorry to cut you off, but we are at 7:15 and we are 10 minutes behind, and we do have Mr. Alvanos here to speak about 97 North Street. Obviously, we need to have more time, and we will definitely incorporate that into the agenda moving forward. Mr. Alvanos will be presenting about proposed renovations for 97 North Street. 97 North Street, for those of you who are not familiar, is, I believe, the former Everest Market. The nature of the proposed renovations is to move the building from mixed use to, I think, entirely residential. And Michael from JRMA Design Studio will be here with his colleague to speak about that and take some questions on that. Thank you for pulling that up. You read my mind.
Technology, beautiful.
Wonderful thing when it works.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'll try to be as brief as I can, give everybody a chance to speak to. So we are working on a project here on 90. Sorry, my name is Michael Alvanos. I'm with JRMA Design Studio, and behind me is Mike Schechner. He is a colleague of mine helping me with this project we're about to present. Okay. So the project actually consists of two different buildings, but tonight we're going to focus on one. The one, if you can see, the one on your left that has what used to be the Everest Market and a unit upstairs above the Everest Market. On the two pictures of the back, there's a portion of this building that has unfortunately seen better days. The two units in the rear are in really bad disrepair. The person that bought this property purchased it last year, actually owns the building across the street. It's the Bissonnettes. They purchased this property. It comes with both sites. They're completely revamping the interior of the building on the right-hand side of the screen. But in looking at the building on the other side, the back portion of the property, it just needs to be taken down at this point. The ceilings are very low. This is an existing site plan showing sort of the configurations of the way that the building sits. So the building that we're focusing on right now is the top right one. What you see here is the outline of what is going to be taken down on the site. And the proposal is to rebuild the back half of this property. So if you switch to the next one, Mike. So what we're proposing is the rear portion of the site actually be taken away and a new building be put up. The amount of units that we're putting in is essentially we're taking away the 2 units, but we're rebuilding 6 new units on the site. And I think the conversation that has been sort of the only thing that I think is a little bit, iffy about this is what's going to happen with the existing market on the front of the building. The situation is that the owner does have the owner was originally trying to keep the market there, but once the market essentially fell into disrepair and they essentially didn't pay rent for about 8 months, they decided that the best thing to do, they did look for other people to go back in, but I think the real situation that they see is that commercial is just it's very difficult to get done and do in that area. So I think for them, they would rather put in housing that is much needed in the area at this point. So this floor plan represents what the front market is going to turn into. It's going to turn into 3 new units. The back half of the property, you can see a couple parking spots, and up above, next slide, Mike, up above is the units that we are potentially going to be putting in. So those represent the 2 floors. You have, every floor up above has 2 levels, and then we're considering, Mike, if you go to the next slide, we're considering putting another 2 at the up above on the 4th floor. So we have 6 new units in the new building, 3 in the old. 9 units are slated to be put on this property. So just some renderings of what we're thinking on the property. The first one on your top left kind of gives an indication of what it would look like from the street. I think the building will be tucked behind. You wouldn't be hard to kind of see it as you're driving by, but the other images give you more of a representation of what the building would be presented as built. So just to kind of keep it brief.
And we're missing, since this is kind of a new thing for a number of folks, and like how and the why this has come to pass. And well, I could attempt to explain the how and the why.
Please.
Over to Charlie Giannone, who's been doing this much longer than I have. Let's speak about this, and then if there's questions regarding the project,
please.
Okay, so I'm assuming that, so you have a project that you'd like to work on, and before the planning and zoning office would schedule you to go to the development review board, they had you come to us at the NPA level and describe what you're proposing, so that at the NPA level, we can give feedback on your project before you go to the development review board. Is that about right?
It's 100% correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever there's a major project or whatever to do in Burlington, probably nowhere else, but before the project gets going, the idea is to bring it to the NPAs to give people in the neighborhood an opportunity to look at it and make comments on it. So that's what we're doing here tonight.
thank you. Does anyone have any questions about this particular project? Go with Evan and then Amy.
Are these questions about design, or are they questions about affordability? What can these questions be? Can they be about anything?
I think they can, whatever.
Anything.
I think these look great. Like, yes, we need housing in Burlington. As someone that lives in quote unquote HUD affordable housing, I just want to reiterate, like, we need housing in Burlington, but at the same time, it needs to actually be affordable for residents. So it's amazing that these are coming to Burlington, amazing that people want to develop in Burlington, but finding a way to making sure that people that need housing, can actually live here. So, this is the only thing I'd like to express.
Go ahead. Thank you. Amy and then Shirley.
And don't behind us. Behind us.
Okay.
I wanna know, one thing I wanna know is the size of the units. How many people are they accommodating?
Yeah, can you go to the second floor and if you can zoom in? I think they're each of the units on the back half of the building are two bedrooms. Each of them have 2 baths and they're roughly between 700 and 800 square feet, maybe a little more, 750 to almost 900 square feet on the back. The units in the front are efficiencies. They're essentially 1-bedroom studio units. We had a little bit of an issue just in trying to make sure we could get everybody, in and out accordingly for life safety issues. But other than that, they're roughly, my eyesight's not the best right now, 569 square feet there, and then about 350, 360 in the fronts. So.
Can you tell me again the total number of apartments or efficiencies? What's the total number?
The whole building is 9 units.
Total nine.
Yeah.
Targeting for this building.
Yeah.
Who are you targeting?
Primarily, young professionals will be going here, probably, retirees that are interested in coming down to this area. I think the owner has a pretty good swath of people that he has from all across. I mean, different income stratas that would come into this building. The conversation has been more about trying to make sure that each unit is sufficient enough to handle either maybe small families, with single parents who need a place for their child a couple times a week. So.
From the range.
Last follow-up. Only one question.
To be honest, I don't have that information.
How about the parking?
That's what I was gonna ask.
All right, I guess, so we have an order here, so we had Representative Logan, Mr. Voter, Dennis, I think that's, so Representative Logan, can you step up to the table?
Oh, sure.
So I can answer the parking really quickly if you go to the site plan if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
Parking, you can see is sufficient on site. We've got, I want to say somewhere around 10 or 12. Whoa. Again, Mike, can you zoom in as far as you can? 12 there, and then I think, so 16 total spots on the site as is.
So we do have a question here from Representative Kate Logan, who was a little late, so I'm gonna do an introduction for those of you who are not familiar. Ward 3 is actually split among, I think, 3 separate legislative districts. We have Chittenden 15 on the easternmost side, and then in the middle, which is most of the real estate of Ward 3, is Chittenden 16, which is a 2-seat district. Representative Logan, as you're entering, you've just completed your 2nd term, I believe, right?
I just completed my 1st term. For 2nd.
Okay, and the other representative for Chittenden 16 is Speaker of the House, Jill Kerwinski. And then on the easternmost portion of the ward, which is from College Street north and kind of to the east of the lake, I think the dividing line is Park Street. That is the Chittenden 17 district. And that is predominantly a new North End district, but we do have that piece that's coming down. So we're kind of divided up. So I just wanted to give some context here for Representative Logan to move forward. So all you.
This property would be in my and Speaker Berwinski's district, Chittenden 16.
So just bring that microphone closer.
Sorry.
Are any of the units planned to be accessible?
The units on the main level front, those have to be, it's required to be accessible. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And you don't have a range in terms of household income that you're attempting to serve?
Not really. Now, a portion of this property the city does require to have some type of inclusionary housing. So we have to fulfill that guideline as well. So.
I'm gonna take one more photo, Mr. Van Voder here, and then we do have to get on to Philip with DPW, who's been very patiently waiting here. Got a number, please. Ben?
So from what I gathered, you're mainly working on the back half. Is there any fear, because you said there was disrepair across the building, is there a fear of the front half needing construction like years down the line? Are you taking that into account, and also like during the planning phase?
So the front half of the building at this point is actually the facade of the front half of the building is actually in pretty good shape. The roof is in really poor shape. There's consideration of the roof being redone, the upper level. There's going to be extensive repairs done to the main level, the heating system, with all the windows are going to get redone. The other thing that, just really quickly, the other thing that happens with a lot of these renovation projects is the state now requires we do extensive energy code requirements on these buildings. So what a building once before that was probably from a heating and cooling standpoint was extremely poor. Now we have the opportunity to go in, and the state requires that roof become like an R60 roof, which is really, really good roof to be able to keep all of our heat and cooling inside for energy use. So.
Thank you. With that, we do need to move on to the next presentation. Philip Peterson from the DPW, who will be providing us with a number of updates in a very short and condensed time frame. So without further ado, Philip, it's all you. You have the floor if you want to. I'll let you have the chair here. I'm gonna chair. Yes, I'm gonna rise. I will be right back.
Okay. All right. This is Philip Peterson, Senior Transportation Planner with the Department of Public Works, work in technical services. And Zach is pulling up what I have for a presentation. This is going to be the express version of the presentation, so it gives you all an opportunity to get into some discussion. So the first thing we want to discuss, this is text heavy. It's a very long presentation. Reason being is you can review it later. People that couldn't make it to the NPA can go over it themselves as well. But I'm going to move pretty quickly. So the first thing we want to discuss is Plan BTV Walk Bike Action Plan. You can scoot ahead a couple of slides there, Zach. And so I think there's a little bit of confusion around this particular project. Basically, this is not a redo or we're wiping the slate on Plan BTV Walk Bike. It is a look at it. It is collecting data, seeing what we've done, what we need to do, and do we need to change things? And ultimately, when we talk about federal grant dollars, you have to revamp your transportation plans every 4 to 5 years to make sure that you're showing the federal government that you're committed to the work. So keep scooting along. You can look at this later. Next slide. There is a QR code for a survey. We also have our first public meeting. Sorry, I forgot the date. It is October 21st at Contoy's Auditorium from 6 to 7:30. Encourage you to go to that and to do the survey. The survey is not like a 5-minute survey. It would take some time. It gives you an opportunity to pick locations throughout the city where you want to give your input. Next slide, please. The other thing we wanted to discuss is what we're proceeding with, which is a downtown speed limit reduction. So in the downtown core, and state law allows you to do this, we have the downtown developmental district. That is what we have for a map of the downtown core. And at the Public Works Commission this month, we will be seeking reduction of speed limit from 25 to 20 miles per hour. You want to keep going? Keep going. This is just all information. This is based on the transportation plan from 2011. Keep going. More information that supports doing this. Keep going. And this is all just data that supports making this change. More. Keep going. Keep going. This is all just more information that supports it. One thing that might be a challenge, you go up a couple of slides, is so how do we achieve this? I know that there's an enforcement component that people are concerned about. The police department's not really enforcing, you know, really what drives speed limit on a street is the design of the street. You get on the freeway, there's not a lot of access points, there's a lot of mobility, it's wide, it's long, it's flat, it's straight, it invites people to go fast. North Ave, it's also wide, flat, straight, also invites you to go fast. If you look at a street like St. Paul Street before St. Paul Great Streets, it was wide and also invited speed. The redesign of St. Paul Street into the Great Streets standard that it has now, it tells people to go slower, right? So ultimately, our solution to a lot of these speed limit issues is the design of the street. And many of our downtown streets invite people to slow down. And so that's why we're going to 20 miles per hour. 20 is plenty is our campaign. Keep going down. More information. One thing that folks have brought up at several meetings is why can't we go less than 20 miles per hour? Other communities have looked at this. Other communities have collected data. There's not really a huge benefit to going less than 20 miles per hour. It's marginal. Once you go from 30 to 20, it's an exponential drop in terms of safety, but going less than 20, not really getting a big benefit. The other thing is there's limitations around design. Like how do we design that street at 15 miles per hour? Main Street is designed as a 20 mile per hour street. You know, we also have to think about commerce. You know, vehicles and trucks are trying to get into the downtown core to make deliveries, and that's kind of our thought process. Keep going. I'm sure people have questions. So this is the timeline. As I said, September 18th at the Public Works Commission, we will be seeking approval to move forward with that. Okay, keep going, please. The other thing I want to talk about is traffic calming. We know there's a backlog, a ton of traffic requests and traffic calming requests that people have made. Can you go down again? Thank you. We have some constraints. Limited funds, we have staffing shortage, they're very time consuming. We have come up with some other solutions. We are piloting some rubber speed humps. No, next slide, please. And we picked 3 different locations, 3 different styles of streets, and we didn't spend a lot of money to do this. A speed hump like on South Prospect Street that we constructed last year cost about $35,000, one asphalt speed hump. All of the rubber speed humps that we put in as a pilot, all of them put together cost $16,000. So there's a major benefits to having these, and it allows us to put them in. We're collecting speed data. I can tell you we've looked at some of that data already, very promising. The other thing we're collecting is noise data because we do know that they can be noisy, but we're going to let the data tell the story. Personality free. Keep going. Keep going. This is just kind of some information on the streets and why we picked them. And the last thing I wanted to discuss is the Old North End Greenway. What we're expecting to do is we have a grant, a federal grant to continue this work and to harden the Greenway. It will no longer just be paint and planters and bollards, but it will be curbed and concrete. And we are going to bid that with our sidewalk contract next spring. Okay, that was fast.
So where's the Greenway?
So
it's in Old North, or if you go up a slide, there's a map, left-hand corner. Those of you who live in that neck of the woods, you know the Greenway well. It's also known as the Wiggle. It goes from Battery Street all the way to Mansfield Ave using low volume residential streets instead of major streets like Pearl Street, which can be a little bit, you know, not as friendly for folks that are not confident on their bikes.
So I'm going to jump in here and say we're kind of at the time on this. We are mandated, I believe, by our bylaws to have a minimum of 10 minutes for public forum, and the library closes at 8. We need some closing time. So I would just suggest that if people have questions, we can speak at public forum. If you keep it brief, we can get a lot of people in, and we can also circle back to hear from our counselors as well on some of those issues. So we'll move into public forums right now. So does anyone have any questions about the Nora?
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, sir.
The tally of vote, we have a tie.
We have a tie.
So you might need to use your time to cast yet another vote.
Or flip a coin.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Tie between Bob and 4 votes apiece.
All right.
Sure you get 3.
I'm good with that.
Maybe just.
I guess we don't have a hat right now, so I guess we'll move into public forum, but I guess everyone grab a, thing here.
I'll just collect my hand.
All right.
So the one thing I would say, my email address, phone number, send me an email if you have like in-depth questions or concerns or issues. I want to be accessible to all of you and your concerns and questions and all that.
I'm just gonna point out here, this looks like we do have a lot of questions. This is one of the challenges we always struggle with at the NPA is to have adequate time to talk about this. And here we are meeting all by ourselves with 2 hour and 40 minutes, and we still don't have enough time. So
But let's set something up.
yeah, so I think from my perspective, and I think others may feel the same, we may want to have an encore performance from Mr. Peterson.
Totally fine. Like we could do something at 645 Pine Street in the front conference room to just get right into this topic. I can bring other engineers and we can get into it there.
Okay, so we had, I think I saw Evan, Nora, and Ben, so we'll move into public forum now.
Yeah, that looks awesome. I'm just curious, I only got the chance to skim through the plan before coming to this. What are the other opportunities, if possible, for more like protected bike lanes as an avid biker? And if there is that possibility, and if not, like what are the other solutions there to protect bikers?
Great question. Those plans are in Plan BTV Walk Bike for sure. And we have a lot of opportunities to do that kind of thing. The one thing I would say about protected bike lanes is it's very expensive. And, that's kind of the purpose of doing Plan BTV Walk Bike Action Plan is to look at the list and say, all right, what are our highest priorities? And how do we parse those priorities down and what grants are we going to attack to get the work done?
All right, Nora, you're up.
Hi. So in terms of next steps, I heard about the October 21st meeting and also the survey, the QR code that was linked. I was just curious if for people who are less familiar with the history of this,
Like
if,
BTV Walk Bike.
yes, if there was anything in the PowerPoint mentioning the history of it, or if there's any alternative resource we could look
I mean, there
into.
definitely is. I mean, I would suggest going to the website and I'm sure there's something there, or send me an email. I'm happy. I will talk your ear off. All right. I will talk your ear off if you want. I mean, the history of it is, it was approved in 2017. It was a long process of, it's all these plans. It gets really confusing because you're like, oh, we got a plan for this, a plan for that. What's going on here? There's too many plans. We have a transportation plan that is specific to all transportation modes, Green Mountain Transit, but that's separate from Plan BTB Walk Bike, which is all about making Burlington a walkable, bikeable city, and also understanding that we have to work with the CCRPC to have a regional plan so we can connect with other communities like South Burlington and Winooski and Essex, and because that is like the real, not everybody lives and works and is just in Burlington, like me.
Ben, do you have?
Yeah, those, the speed bumps, the rubber speed bumps.
Yes.
What's the lifetime compared to the alternative? Do they cost less? Do they need to be replaced more often or?
So that particular product has a 15-year warranty on it.
Okay.
So that's great. But we have gotten some really good speed data back. So it's promising product. The noise data could be an issue. But we're gonna pilot other products as well to see how we can maximize these traffic calming requests to achieve what a lot of folks want, which is safe, calm streets.
We do have another 5 minutes here. Do you have a?
It looks like
Do you have a vote
Counselor
tally
King.
here?
Yes, we can do that quickly. The
Okay.
results of your second vote between Bob and Nora is Bob is the victor.
Congratulations, Bob, and Nora, Trudy, and
I'll be
Evan.
here.
Again, the steering committee meetings are open, and we haven't decided when those are going to be, but we would very grateful if you all would consider attending there, because the more the merrier. Many hands make light work, I think is something like that. But yeah, and I'm just grateful that we have so many people coming out to weigh in on this and looking forward. I feel like it's like we're like a snowball kind of going down the hill. We're picking up some momentum here and we're going to do some good things together. So, Trudy, Amy.
Those wonderful things that help you cross the street.
RFPs?
You push, I don't know what you call them.
Yep, rapid rectangular flashing beacons. Yes.
And is that in this thing somewhere at all?
Sure. We do have engineers that manage those requests as well. We're always looking for new opportunities to do installations. Again, expensive, right? Not cheap. But yeah, if it makes sense, the one thing we don't want to do is put them everywhere because then they lose their effectiveness. We want them to be effective, and the rules with an RFP is it's just a yield. It's not even a yield sign. It's not a stop sign. All it is someone pushes a button and it lets someone know that you're there. But there's no like legal thing where a car has to stop or has to yield, and they have to yield to pedestrians. But anyways, yes, if you have questions and you have a specific location.
That was in the process of your thinking.
Yes, it's always in the
Okay.
thinking, for sure.
So I'm just got a few minutes here. I'll just jump in with a couple brief announcements. Philip's PowerPoint will be posted up on Civic Clerk with the minutes from this meeting. We do try to get them out, I think, within a couple hours of, or a couple days. A couple hours would be a heck of a turnaround.
With the date of the Plan BTV public meeting. It's October 21st. I forgot to put that in there.
Okay. Duly noted. Our next meeting, we're going to be meeting from here on out the first Wednesday of the month. We will be going back to the usual 6:30 to 8:30 time slot. We had to make some adjustments this time because of the hours of the library. Moving forward, it's looking like we are going to be meeting at City Hall in the Busher Room, and had some preliminary conversations with some of our businesses downtown, and it looks like we may have some donated food coming. So we'll have some options there. But I just want to thank everyone for coming out. It's good to see some folks, and it looks like Michelle has some comments. I know she has some activities she wants to discuss, so.
So one of the things that we wanted to do was to try and get people involved in a different way. And we would like to do like a monthly engagement type of thing. So we would like to encourage that those who are coming to potentially consider bringing like next month. Our October theme is to donate like coloring things. So maybe like a coloring book or crayons or coloring pencils. And we're gonna donate it to like a school or like a daycare facility or something like that, where they might need those kinds of supplies because they have kids that may not have those. Or we'll take it down to like one of the centers or something like that. So if you're willing, please bring some of those items.
Okay.
This is what our friends in Ward 5 refer to as the neighborhood doing assembly. Any parting comments here? We do have a minute left.
So I would say I'm more than happy to set up a lengthier discussion with the NPA. If you want to send, an email and we make arrangements, we can do a virtual thing if that's easier for people. We can do it in person, wherever you want. That's fine. So that, because this is not just a 10-minute conversation.
Yes.
This is a lengthier conversation. These issues are complicated and I want to make them simple. So we can explain things and kind of bring things kind of at street level. Because these are your streets and this is your neighborhood. And we want to make sure that we're doing things that you want to see. And that lines up with the plans of the city council.
And on that note, my final parting comment is, I just want to call out, if you look around the room here, you'll see a lot of photos here. These photos were taken by now retired Senator Patrick Leahy. This is an exhibit of his work. So you can see this here, and it captures a number of moments throughout his long and storied career as a Vermont senator. He was elected in his early 30s in 1974. He was one of the longest serving senators here, and we are lucky to have him. He's now actually a resident downtown. I think he might be in your building or the next one over. And we now have the airport named after him. So on that note, it's 7:45, time certain. I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
I'm sorry. Could I get in one thing, please?
Absolutely, Councilor Grant.
Thank you. So what I want to do is I want to give you one example of what is going on downtown so that you have an idea. And then I'm going to kind of brainstorm. For everyone in the room, has got to be on Front Porch Forum and you've got to be on the mayor's email list. If you're not doing that, bare minimum, then you're purposefully not getting the information you need. So please, one example is we know what horrendous situation we had at Buell Street and then across the street in the parking garage. Councilor Broderick and I have been pulling our hair out. Councilor Broderick and I roaming the streets, 11:30 p.m., midnight, looking, verifying what's going on. The mayor assessed the Department of Public Works, they handle the parking garages. They had a security company. So then the question is, where is the security company? Why do we have all of this stuff going on in the garage? The security company is not being effective. Long story short, that whole thing was evaluated. That contract with that company is not being renewed, and we're bringing in the sheriff's department. So we're waiting for the start date for the sheriff's department. So that is an example of the things that the mayor's working on and has announced. So I will come up with a way, and at the bare minimum, try to get to everyone here, to get to Chris, so we can disseminate information. But that's an example of the things that are going on that people are missing because they're not watching meetings or they're not watching of the emails. I just want us to be very careful about a false narrative that this administration isn't doing anything, because we are continuing to make all of this very political, and that is dangerous. That is dangerous to us all. You can throw out all kinds of resolutions, but do they mean anything? Please think about that, everyone. I and Joe are available to you. I will be, tomorrow's a travel day for me, but available Friday, Saturday, anybody who wants to reach out and meet on the weekends. Joe and I have been talking about doing like a weekly Zoom meeting, maybe like a Saturday morning. Give us feedback about that. Anyone can jump on at that time. I know it's hard to get a good time for everyone, but maybe that will help. So thank you again. I appreciate the extra time.
Okay, and on that note, we'll adjourn, and I will just remind everyone, Art Hop this weekend down in the South End. Go visit our friends down in the South End, and Pride weekend. So get out in March. Take care. Have a good night, everyone.
And thanks for coming.
Thank you.
That's a grand.